everybody. Yes, aloha kakahiaka, everybody. We are live. Today is July 24th, and I want to welcome you all to our pre-game show. This is the part where we take about 5 minutes or so to kind of warm everybody up, to kind of make sure everything's working correctly, let everyone get a chance to get themselves settled. We are going to start on the dot at 9 o'clock a.m. Hawaii time. Right now it is 8:55 a.m. Hawaii time. And I want to start up by welcoming my co-hosts over here. Let's get I'm going to go in the Hollywood Squares method over here, clockwise. So Dylan, what's going on over there, buddy? Unmute your mic and fill us in on what's happening out there.
Just another day. It's a beautiful day over here, nice and sunny outside. I have to stay in the office because there's painters at my house, but you would never know there's a storm coming, and a lot of times that's how it is in Kona, but we'll talk more about that, I think, once the show gets started. But I did go to Costco yesterday, and it was completely packed and insane. So the normal preparations are happening, I think, for everybody on the island.
I'm like, wait a minute. Didn't you all just go to Costco? Didn't we all just go to Costco not too long ago to stock up on COVID? What are we going back? Did we run out of toilet paper again? So I'm not too sure. So, hey, fill us in on your. So normally our tradition is to talk about our shirts, right? So Dylan, what we're wearing? Well, now that we have Heidi with us, that's no longer shirts, is what we're wearing. So Dylan, what are you wearing today?
This is a Ren Spooner. So back to the classic. Ren Spooner shirt. And this is one I've owned for a really long time, probably like 15 years plus or something like that, when I got early on in my professional career. So just shaking it back off and bringing it back out.
It's looking as good as it always has. So hey, let's move over to Heidi. Heidi, unmute your mic and fill us in. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Like Dylan said, it's a beautiful day on Maui. You never know there's a storm coming. I'm just enjoying my Maui coffee. One thing you might not know about me is I am a very passionate coffee drinker. So I've got my coffee, and that's my fashion accessory this morning. It's the red Katuai blend, which is grown right in Kaanapali, less than a mile from where I live. And I just love it. It's a great way to start the day.
I too consider myself a coffee snob. I have a burr grinder, so that doesn't grind the beans overly. It's a different kind of a grinder. And I finally bought a digital scale, and I measure it exactly 42 grams of coffee beans, because that's my exact formula there. So welcome Heidi. We're really glad to have you here live with us. Scott, what's going on, man? Is that the fake background there? So tell us about your real Aloha shirt and your fake background.
Yeah, so I'm super excited this morning to come to you I'm down here on the Gold Coast. Let me duck out of the way so the camera can show you.
That's awesome, man.
So I'm down here on the Gold Coast. I'm actually at the San Souci. My client allowed me to use his lanai right out here on the ocean. That's Waikiki right out in the background. Surf's supposed to be picking up. It's not here yet, but in doing so, I picked out my Ren Spooner with the old style surfboards on it for a throwback to Waikiki.
Oh, the classic boards. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it's a beautiful day. You can see there's a few clouds and a bunch of people at the beach, and everybody's having a good time.
Yeah, kind of like we're all saying there. You never guess that we're about to get our hopefully not get our butts kicked big time, but certainly there's definitely some big time storms that seem to be on their way over. Yeah, gang, this has been. I'm really glad that you all glad that we're all here. Glad that you're all doing it. Let's see, it's about 8:59. We got about a minute or so to go, I think. We'll see how it all kind of flies. And we got our regulars here. Jim's been here like almost every show, and Teresa is here almost like every show. So great to see you guys. Thanks for joining us, and we're really kind of happy to have you all here. And it's really frankly it's a whole lot of fun. So if you've come into the show, and if you're not watching this live, you can kind of squeeze up probably about a minute or so, but actually not a minute, because right now it is 9 o'clock. And so we are going to get started. I want to welcome everybody for being here with us on today. Let's get right into our show here. We're going to start with our normal quick update, of course, the coronavirus. So we accurately predicted at our last exciting show, right? You saw it here. We said that there was initially they were going to let everybody in. When was, I forgot what the date was going to be. July 15th was it going to be, or August 1st? There's August 1st, right? Thank you. So it was going to be August 1st that they were going to allow it in. And we said, you know what? I just don't see that happening. 3 days later, after we had the show on the 10th, 3 days later on the 13th, Governor Ige declared that, no, we're not ready yet. And so we're going to extend this right now until August 31st. And he said the reason why was due to the rise of confirmed cases on the mainland, supply chain for testing supplies interrupted because of outbreaks, and anticipated uptake in cases when schools reopen. The pre-testing program has been postponed to Tuesday, September 1st. This new date is tentative and will be reevaluated. So that's that. So and truthfully, it's too early to tell. I don't know if anybody wants to chime in on any feelings they have about how confident our August 31st date is looking. Anyone want to comment on that one? It's a big question mark. The truth is we don't know, and it's too far off to speculate. Scott?
Well, I mean, I don't have the confidence that they can get their act together and get a solid program in place with a system. They seem to be disorganized more than anything. And I sent those slides over to you guys where it looked like this August, what was it, lift or people looking to come back in here, they had like 80% of, planes, the number of people more or less buying flights to come out here was at like 80% of where we were pre-COVID. So the demand was there. And then they had to cancel a lot of those flights.
Yeah, so it is what it is, folks. As of right now, the quarantine is extended until August 31st. We don't know what's going on. We will keep you posted. Of course, we do our little COVID update. But you know what? None of that really matters right now. No one really cares about COVID because right now we've got Douglas. Hurricane Douglas is belting and making its way over here, and I want to thank my co-host here for being calm in it's literally the calm before the storm, right? It's a beautiful day, you'd never guess. But meanwhile, I brought a couple of slides over here to fill you folks in, like this one here. This is the cones, and it looks like the cone is showing potentially a hurricane coming over Maui, possibly, and certainly tropical storm for the rest of the state. I've got this one here, which I always kind of use as well. These are both from the NOAA website, and this is showing tropical storm force wind probabilities, and it looks like certainly we're going to be getting Heidi, you guys are in the highest probability right now as of this morning. You folks are the highest probability of a tropical storm. So, you've been here a bunch of years, Heidi. How is this hurricane? What's the hurricane vibe this time around?
Well, I think it's a bit too early to tell what the impact's going to be. I mean, fortunately, a lot of us have already gone to Costco and stocked up on supplies, so no need to do that. I mean, we're expecting probably strong winds and rain and some high surf. But other than staying at home and, I mean, putting your lanai furniture inside and making sure you have water and supplies, I mean, there's really not much to do. So we're just kind of, laying low and staying safe.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting about me on this time around is that usually the Big Island has, at least the past few hurricanes that have come through, the Big Island has sort of saved the state. Like I forgot which one it was, but there was one where it was like barreling, like full on, and it like Lane, was that the one? So tell us about that, Dylan.
Yeah, so a lot of the meteorologists say that this is not science, but to me, I just look at it from a simple person's perspective. And when you have a 13,000 foot basically wall in Mauna Loa that runs between the east and the west side of the island, when the storms always come from the east. And so when they hit the east side of the island, unfortunately, the east side does get some good rain and wind and does get some damage. And we haven't anything really serious, but Lane was the last bad one that kind of had a direct impact on South Hilo. But once it ran into Mauna Loa, it basically just dissipates. You can watch, it's pretty cool. You can watch the satellite imagery where it just kind of scatters, and the rest of the state didn't get any of it. So that's an interesting thing about the Big Island, is we can almost get a direct impact on the east side of the island. And Lane in particular, I remember that clearly. I was barbecuing that afternoon as there was torrential downpours in Hilo. It was a sunny, beautiful day in Kona, and we took we had the day off because everything was shut down, and we were waiting for the storm to come, and so we were barbecuing in the backyard.
Now that's a crazy version of the microclimates that we know are a part of Hawaii, right? We have dry, and we have wet, and we ever to have a tropical storm hurricane on one side and to have a barbecue on the other. That is really, really crazy. So Scott, have you got your well, you look like you're ready for a hurricane. I can't say you look like you're ready for a hurricane there, Scott, but maybe you're ready to surf the waves for the hurricane. What's the vibe like?
Yeah, I made sure I bought extra wax so I could get a little more wax on my surfboard, be ready to go out. But no, I mean, I actually went through this. So I'm building a home now. We just put our trusses on yesterday. We craned them in, and I was helping the guys out. Was a year or two ago, we were going to have that direct hit coming up from coming south, coming right at Waikiki. We were in the exact same position on my Haula project at that time, and I'm thinking, oh God, am I sheathing the roof and we're going to have a big kite? And it ended up being nothing at all. And that's kind of the hope, and that's kind of the consistency that it's been, is, rain and wind, especially the rain, a lot of rain and some wind. And that's what we kind of hope for, is for that same kind of repetitive cycle. We all go to Costco, pile up. What's funny though is Costco changed their policy now. You go and buy all this stuff, you can't take it back. You got to keep it now, which is great. So now you aren't going to have as many people going nuts at Costco.
I'm so glad they finally did that, because you had all this kind of hoarding going on. People would, hoard stuff and then bring it back later. And I thought, man, that's kind of unfair to Costco as well. And so you have to put a cost on it. So,
and the rule of thumb was, if you brought it back, they had to dispose of it. They couldn't put it back on the shelf. So talk about just an absolute waste.
Oh my God, what a mess. Yeah. All right. So
it is important to mention that, for folks that aren't here in the state, we deal with this every year. I mean, there's multiple ones almost every single year. This has kind of been I think a quiet year so far, but there's a little bit, I think, of complacency that happens over time, where you get 3 or 4 near misses every year and it never hits. People kind of get used to it. So it's been a very long time since we had a storm that did any real significant damage. Iniki was early 90s, right? Was it 91 or something like that? I don't remember exact year, but and that was on Kauai. It passed right over because it doesn't have the high mountains, and so it's been a while, and we'll survive. We'll be okay.
I'm so glad that you brought that up. I'm so glad you brought that up, Dylan, because I was gonna mention that. It's like we become complacent. So because so far every one of the things have kind of they've the pattern's almost the same. Either it dissipates before it comes, or it hits the Big Island. But we'll see. So I right now, the way it's looking at the current forecasts, it looks like if you look at this tropical storm thing, that Big Island has a less of a probability, and actually Maui looks like it has the most probability. So Heidi, we will be keeping you in our prayers as we go forward on this. Let's get back to, there's a couple of things I wanted to kind of, part of the things that we also do on the show here is, I think we wanted to hit these important things, the COVID update, clearly the hurricanes on everyone's mind. But I do want to get kind of a boots on the ground view from you folks. What's been happening? Do you have any kind of interesting stories to share with us that illustrate to you kind of what's been going on with the real estate market? People always want to know what's kind of going on, especially now with COVID, maybe even now with the hurricane. We've got our clockwise. Oh, look, Hollywood Squares puts Heidi first. So Heidi, you're going to go fill us in on kind of what's been going on with, what's the market like in Maui? Can you fill us in?
Sure. So on Maui recently, there's been really strong activity in the luxury high-end market, with just a flurry of properties going under contract at the high end, like 7 to 18 million range. What we're seeing is buyers who are looking to escape wherever they are, and they want to be somewhere they feel safe and can enjoy a great lifestyle. And some high-end buyers are finding that on Maui. Now, what we're also seeing is just a very slight shift to more single family homes being sold as compared to condominiums when you look at this year versus last year. And I'm seeing that in my own business as well. I have clients who own vacation condos, and now they're looking to upgrade to a single family home to have more space and space where they can bring their whole family over and spend time as a family. So that's really cool. For buyers who've been waiting on the sidelines to buy and are in maybe that low to median price range, I'm actually seeing way more opportunities now than there were last year in this market segment. So that could.
So what do you mean by when you say way more opportunities now? What does that mean?
Just good properties coming on in the, $400,000-$500,000 range. Inventory has been, always very low in that price range. But I think some of the area where inventory has increased is the vacation rental condos, because we haven't been able to have vacation rentals for a while during COVID.
Yeah,
so,
we've been talking about that, right?
Even though overall statistically our prices are still very steady and strong on Maui. Some negotiations for short-term rental condos right now, in deals that I've been involved in, there has been some more flexibility in that. So I think for somebody looking to invest in Maui that's kind of been waiting, or even residential condos in the 400,000, 500,000, 600,000 range, it just seems like there's more nice listings coming on the market now than there were in the past. But prices are still strong. So
I think that's been the amazing theme, is that prices have been maintained. There was a lot of scare about that. Scott, what's Oahu looking like in the what have you seen over the past 2 weeks since our last exciting episode from you?
Yeah, the market's still up about 3 or 4% island wide, and then I got those two market segments I keep talking about, and I brought a listing on in Eva 2 weeks ago at 675,000. And that Eva market, listings are down 21%, but closed sales are actually up compared to last year, which would have been pre-COVID. So there's more buyers in the market than listings. And so I had 30 showings in 5 days, 5 offers. We're in escrow over asking with a backup offer over asking. Then you go to Waikiki, listings are down.
I got to translate it, because that's like you just gave a whole paragraph of realtor talk, and what that means to me is that things are really busy and they're selling.
Oh yeah,
that's the headline. I got to translate for. I have to translate for the people who are watching, and I'm the dumb guy.
30 showings in 5 days. That's insane. That's a lot of people, and to have 5 offers and over asking price, you wouldn't expect that in a marketplace where we're having COVID and you had an economic shutdown. That just doesn't make sense, right?
It's really remarkable.
Inventory is restricted, more buyers, and the buyers are confident in being able to buy. Interest rates are low. Waikiki is the opposite. Listings are down 32%, sales are down 53%, and prices are off 6%. So to give you the showing activity on that, I talked to a guy. I said, "Hey, how's your listing doing down in Waikiki?" He goes, "I had 1 showing in the last 2 weeks." Completely opposite market segments.
Wow. So really, if you were a kind of a risk taker, and Waikiki is a potentially good buy at this point, sounds like. Is that right? You said the prices are down by 6%. You could probably make a low offer, I would think, and find the right distressed seller, I would think. But you got to take that risk.
Yeah, but they anticipate our tourism to get back to capacity, with full capacity where we were at maybe 5 years, but to 80-85% within 2 years, a year and a half to 2 years. So, hey, you want to do your net operating income, your cash flow, base it off of an 80% occupancy of what the old numbers were, set it, forget it, and you buy at the dip and then ride it over the long run. You'll do well.
Yeah. If you've got that kind of a stomach, if you got that kind of stomach and cash, you're in good shape. So Dylan, give us the Big Island update.
Hey, my simple update is I'm hearing from everybody, and I experienced this week. We put 3 deals in the escrow sight unseen. So even though the buyers aren't even here, they're starting to get antsy. And like Heidi said, they just want to get out of wherever they are and escape. And there's definitely that sight unseen demand. We've been talking about it, but I feel like it's really increasing and getting more serious. And 2 of them were over asking price deals. So it was competitive. And then, they're people are willing to buy sight unseen for more than the list price, and that is not a normal thing in the last 5 years. That's a post-COVID thing right now. So pretty interesting, and I'm hearing that anecdotally from all, a lot of my colleagues that they're experiencing the same thing.
I think that's really it really speaks to the strength of Hawaii's allure and Hawaii's value proposition. That we're seeing this situation. Real estate in Hawaii is a really a solid bet. One thing I wanted to try, and I just thought about this now because we're all here, is it's really cool because we have Heidi who's in Maui, and we've got Scott who's on Oahu, and we got Dylan who's on the Kona side of the Big Island. Since we've got a large part of the key markets represented here. Do you folks have any questions or comments you want to ask each other while we're here right now? Dylan, anybody want to know anything about any of the other islands that you want to ask? I mean, we're all here right now in a conversation, or for that matter, of course, anyone, if you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, this is the time to kind of put those questions. But do you guys have anything for each other?
Yeah, I mean, I've got one is, real estate has always been something that you got to touch and feel. And now we're starting to see more of those transactions, like you said, sight unseen, where you're doing virtual walkthroughs or FaceTime. Do you see that being able to be sustainable further on? In other words, that changes the buyer, how the buyer behaves in a transaction. You see more of those kind of transactions going into the future post-COVID. Dylan, you have any idea?
Yeah, what definitely helps with that is I mean, I think we've been doing this for a while now in terms of like 360 video and being able to do more digital stuff to allow buyers to get a better feel for a property, and not just the interior, right? You can shoot a 360 tour and walk the street before you go into the property and really let them get a feel for the neighborhood, so you can see that there aren't broken down cars next door and other things. But in general, I feel like there was a segment of realtors that were doing that understood that was important pre-COVID, but now everybody kind of sees that that's important. So the vast majority of new listings I'm seeing come on the market do have some type of 360 tour or video tour attached to it. So we don't have to go out there. In the past, it was, I get a buyer client that's interested in a property, and I got to go out there and get the video for them because the listing agent wasn't doing that. So I'm not sure if maybe part of that is technology too. We've played around, thanks to Peter, with a very inexpensive 360 camera that has really added a lot of value, I think, to our business. But in the past, it was really expensive to do that kind of stuff, even just 2 years ago. And I think because technology has gotten better and quicker and easier, that a lot of people are using these simple 360 cameras instead of having to pay $5,000 for a 360 camera like you used to have to. So that definitely helps.
Heidi, what's your sense? Are you? Do you see the showings of a potential transition here in the way that people are buying real estate? And I'd like to actually know from if anyone's got any comments who's watching live. Would you be prepared to buy a property sight unseen? What would you need to know to be able to do that? But Heidi, what's your sense of this? Is this do you see a fundamental shift? People buying property sight unseen, given all the other photos and 360s and everything else that they want to know about it?
Well, I feel like this was happening prior to COVID as well. I mean, just because we're relatively remote out here on Maui. But right now I have 4 different buyers under contract. They're all buying sight unseen. But all of these buyers are very familiar with the communities that they're buying in and have vacationed here and know the area and know the neighborhood. And I think that type of buyer is going to be the buyer that's more comfortable buying sight unseen. Now, if you've never been to Maui before, I think that's a bigger leap to take. But for somebody that's been vacationing in the area every year for 10 years and they've driven through the neighborhood before, I mean, that type of buyer, that's the typical sight unseen buyer that at least I'm working with right now.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. If you've been visiting, every single year, you go to the same place every year again and again, and now you're going to buy a unit in that same building that you've gone to. You've done the site visit. Cool. Look, folks, if you're listening live, make sure you send us whatever questions you've got. I want to encourage you all. Going to have a great discussion for today. We've got a lot of stuff planned out, and it's been great so far. So I want to thank you all for being here and thank you all for being a part of this. Let's move on. We've got our next question over here, and this one comes from Kathy from Central Illinois, and she says, this is for the realtors. My husband and I are retired. Our son and daughter now live on Kauai. 3 years ago, when visiting, we decided to move to Hawaii from Central Illinois. After multiple trips to Oahu and much research, my background is a nurse, we decided the Big Island was where we wanted to concentrate our search for a house. I was to have been there in June, July, and now September. Well, Kathy, you may be coming in even after September. Anyway, I have every intention, she says, I have every intention to quarantine regardless of any proclamations set forth for a negative COVID test 72 hours before flying. I have places on the Big Island in waiting, like VRBO and a month-to-month furnished apartment. Is there anywhere I can go to quarantine upon arrival to the state now for the 14-day quarantine and at a reasonable rate? I've been following your site for 2 years now and was especially happy to the addition of your most informative presentations with Dylan and Scott. There you go. Shout out to Dylan and Scott. Way to go. And now soon to be Heidi. By the way, I did reach out to Dylan as a prospective realtor. Then COVID came. So Dylan, this one's for you. So Kathy, shout out from Kathy to you. What advice do you have for Kathy as far as her question? Where can I go to quarantine upon arrival and stay for 14 days at a reasonable rate?
Hey, Kathy, thanks for the question. Really, you can just go to any rental that you're currently set up at. It can't be a short-term, licensed short-term rental, but if you have a month-to-month rental or even a longer-term rental, if you want to come here and just stay before you buy, that's totally fine. There's a lot of people that are coming back that have second homes or they're moving here or visiting, and they just have to shelter in place. So when they get here, they go from the airport to their residence and then stay there. So there definitely are options, and most of them are going to be those mid to longer term rentals, because you cannot stay in a short term rental based on the interpretation of the governor's proclamation right now. Those owners will be forfeiting their short term rental vacation permits if they turn it into a long term rental. So that is a little bit of a conundrum. There would be a lot more inventory to rent if that was an option, but right now it's not.
So Dylan, am I to summarize that? Am I to say if you do see a sort of month-to-month rental, advertised, or one that you booked already, because Kathy seemed to indicate she had a month-to-month.
Mm-hmm.
VRBO might be a different story. VRBO might be out because they may lose their license or what have you. But if it's a month-to-month, you're good to go, right?
You're fine. Yeah. Correct? And what I would suggest, and I've done this for several clients already, is contact me. I got, myself or somebody on the team, we've gone shopping for folks and stocked up the fridge before they get there. So when they make it to their residence, they got food for a couple of weeks, and you don't have to worry about that. But we also have some delivery services and stuff that can sustain you. But you just want to make sure you're set up with the basics and the essentials when you get there, and you don't have to worry about shopping, and we can help you out with that.
Thanks, Dylan. That's great. So, Heidi, is there anything you want to mention about what's that situation? If there was that same question, how would that question apply to Maui? What's the situation with Maui? If I want to go over there and I want to stay there for the purpose of sort of scouting out a property or taking a look, what's the situation with the short-term rentals? Because the laws are different from island to island. What's the situation on Maui quickly?
Well, similar to what Dylan was saying, short-term rentals aren't allowed to rent to guests that are subject to the 14-day quarantine. There are rentals out there. A long-term rental would probably be the easiest, because then you could just sign a lease for 6 months and stay there while you're doing your home search. That's definitely possible.
Got it. Thanks. Excellent. Appreciate that. So basically, it's again same thing, only a little bit different. Just kind of look for maybe a longer term rental as opposed to the short term stuff. Scott, what's your advice?
Yeah, there's so many. even 30-day rentals or short-term rentals that are not available here that are in zonings where you can. If you go on VRBO or Airbnb, you should be able to find plenty that you can negotiate longer leases for, not month to month, or maybe 2 months worth of a rental. That would be an option. The place I'm here today is actually a minimum 30-day rental, so this would kind of fit that bill. But that's kind of your best bet, is getting into something that's you're not going to have to move after 2 weeks or something, where you're there for a month, then you can kind of extend from there. Or maybe you go 2 to 3 months. That's going to give you enough time frame to get through quarantine, start getting familiar with the island. Maybe you get into escrow at that point, potentially close within 3 months. It's going to take some time to get into that home that you're wanting to buy. So you need the time to be able to land and stay, unless you're wanting to hop around from place to place.
Yeah, thanks. A quick question from Teresa. What's considered a short-term rental, week to week, month to month? I believe, if I'm not mistaken, please correct me if I'm wrong, gang. Short-term rental is anything under a month. A month or over is not considered a short-term rental. Any objections there? Any heads? Not okay. All right, good. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what the rule is.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Heidi.
Actually, for Maui, it's 180 days.
Thank you, Heidi. So okay. So correction. A short-term rental on Maui is anything less than 180 days, which is what? That's 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's under 6 months, it's considered a short-term rental on Maui. Got it. And Scott, what's the Oahu? It's 30 days, right?
It's 30 days for residential. Now the tax comes into play. So technically anything under 180 days is shorter term. So you add that transient accommodation tax onto that rental portion. But for residential zoning or apartment zoning, it's 30-day rental.
30 days. And Dylan, it's 30. Is it 30 days on the Big Island as well? What's the short-term rental?
It is, but the convoluted qualifier there is that when you say short-term rental, that's a legal term, right? A legal definition in the county code, and to qualify or to have that law apply to you as a short-term rental, it has to be a property that is fully rented out, right? So you definitely can find homes that maybe have a separate unit on it, or an upstairs downstairs separate unit, and those are not subject to that law if it's hosted, is what they call it, a hosted rental. So those can be less than 30 days, but aren't necessarily considered a short-term rental because they're not subject to the law. So it's convoluted, but it depends on how you're renting the property out, not just how long you're renting the property out, what the property situation is in terms of residency.
So the moral of my story here is give us a call or contact us, and we'll help you, because it's like,
it's complicated.
It's complicated. It's really bizarre. It's shifts from island to island.
And we deal with this a lot. So we are the problem solvers. Reach out to us. We know how to navigate through this. We'll figure out a solution for you.
Yeah, well said. Thanks, Scott. Great one. All right, let's move on to our next one here. This is from Natasha, who's in Dallas, Texas. And she says, when it comes to condos, our HOA is Homeowners Association, HOA assessment and maintenance fees, are assessment and maintenance fees the same thing? And if not, how do they differ? When obtaining a mortgage, does it consist of the principal, taxes, and maintenance fees? This is my Oahu background. So Scott, why don't you lead this one off?
Yeah, I've created condo associations, or condos and homeowners associations, with my development company. So maintenance fees, they're technically talking about the same thing. You may have a homeowners association fee and your a master policy association, so you could fee as well. So you could actually have more than one maintenance fee, but that's typically in your master plan communities. Otherwise, with a condominium, maintenance fee is the same thing as homeowners association assessment. They're putting it together. There could be a period though where they add an assessment for, say, for a big plumbing project, and you have an additional fee that you're having to pay for a specific period of time. It is not included in the mortgage. The only thing included in the mortgage is principal, interest, property taxes, and insurance. And the lenders are requiring you to pay the insurance and the property taxes through the mortgage at this time. Otherwise, if you try to opt out of that, they'll charge you a higher interest rate for your mortgage.
So the mortgage payment does not include the HOA/maintenance, does not, and so you have to kind of pay for that separately. Great. Anybody else want to comment on add? Do either of you, Heidi or Dylan, you have anything you want to add onto this one?
the important thing to remember about that is it does affect your ability to qualify for a mortgage, or the amount that you qualify for, because that, if that maintenance fee is $500 or $600 or even $1,000 a month, that's going to play into your monthly debt to income ratio as part of your payment, right? So if you're qualified for 300,000, but your maintenance fee is going to be an additional $500 a month, you may only qualify for a condo that's 250 or 225, because they have to factor in that 500 a month as part of your payment, your principal, interest, taxes, all that stuff. So it's not included in your mortgage, but it does affect how much of a mortgage you can qualify for.
Excellent. Hey, so Liliana just asked us a quick question here. Do you have properties without the HOA, without the bleep HOA? And yes, a single family. Well, not all. A lot of single family homes don't have HOA fees, right, folks? Am I right?
Yeah, the vast majority, unless you're in more of a resort style type community where they maybe have a common area and common landscaping and stuff, but you're not going to avoid it in a condo. I mean, that's the name of the game. In a condo, there are common areas. You have shared walls and roofs and landscaping, and there's no way to get away from it in a condo or townhome type situation.
So the rule of thumb is basically, for the most part, single family home, no; condo, townhome, yes. That's pretty much.
And we've talked about this in the past, and people don't like the idea of HOAs, but you have to think about it. You're basically prepaying for your maintenance, right? So if you have to change the roof on your house once every 20 years and repaint it once every 20 years and do the routine plumbing and electrical fixes, all those types of things, and you amortize that over 20 years, it ends up being a couple $100, a few $100 a month or whatever. If you're paying for landscaping for somebody, a yard guy, that could be a couple $100 a month. So although nobody likes paying more money out of their pocket, at the end of the day, if you don't want to deal with all that stuff, you're just prepaying for it, and your homeowners association takes care of it. So it can make sense, especially if you're retired or you're it's a part-time home and you don't want to have to coordinate those activities.
You don't want to have to worry about people coming to cut your yard, to cut your lawn, or to trim your trees. And
you close your door and you leave your condo, and it's good to go. You don't have to worry about it for 3 months.
Well, yeah. So Liliana is happy about that one. Excellent. So and we're getting a lot. I got to just stop this for a minute. Not stop it, but I got to say, I really appreciate. First of all, I really appreciate everyone. I appreciate you folks being here, Heidi and Scott and Dylan. Love you guys being here on Friday. Thank you for taking your time out to kind of do the show, and I really appreciate our audience. Love the guys. Love your folks' questions. It's rather rewarding. I actually get a charge out of this. So Joyce, Joyce. Well, Joyce, some, like Dylan said, some communities have an HOA fees. Not all, but some have an HOA fee, and the one where you're at apparently does. Everybody's happy over here. Joe's happy, and we had a way back from Joyce said that loves the videos, but a lot more Thursday open houses here on the Kona side. Very, very fast. I don't want to get too distracted. Dylan, any sense of open houses on the Kona side? Anything going on with that?
Well, they opened it July 1st. They allowed us to start doing open houses again. So we've had agents doing that. Our experience with it is that traffic is really light. I think people are more apprehensive to stop by an open house, and then we don't have the looky-loo tourists that are driving around enjoying their day and want to stop and look at a property, right? So in general, I've had agents that have done open houses, and then they're there for 4 hours to get 1 or 2 people that stop by, and it's just a neighbor walking by. It's not as advantageous as it used to be.
Yeah, excellent, good. All right, we're going to move on. Anybody else? Final comments? Anybody want to throw in here? All right.
Yeah, one real quick. I mean, obviously, people poo-poo having to pay a maintenance fee or living under certain rules and regulations, because when you are in a homeowners association, you're living under community rules. Those rules are there to help guide everyone and tell you these are the restraints that you have to live within. The pros of that are they will help keep a neighborhood more consistent and keep the values more consistent over time. You don't have to worry about your neighbor having the junk beater next and a bunch of trash in their yard, because the association will help keep that consistency there. So there are pros and cons to it. So some associations, though, can get out of hand with what they're doing.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Scott. All right, let's move on to our next one here. And I've got this is my Maui background. We'll see how this works. It almost hurts my eyes looking into the sun over there, but it's sunrise. This is sunrise over Haleakala. I'm sure you recognize that, Heidi. So this is from Christy from Wisconsin. And Christy says, buying a condo versus a home. What are the key considerations? This almost kind of fits in with our HOA thing. What are the key considerations? Also, what structural and other important features to look for when buying a condo? I'm mostly interested in Big Island and Maui, so I thought I'd throw this one on the Maui side of the fence. Heidi, what do you tell folks when they're saying, hey, condo or home? What are the key considerations that I've got to deal with?
Sure. Well, great question. And, when you're first starting your search, you definitely want to explore all your options. And, we just covered this, but I think one of the things to really think about whether you're buying a home or a condominium is understanding the HOA, not just how much is the HOA fee, but what specifically does that cover? What are the house rules? There's some communities and subdivisions where there's lots of rules, and there's some where there are virtually no rules and you can do what you want. So I think understanding what type of community that you're going to be most comfortable in and enjoy living in is a good thing to think about. Now, as far as what features to look for, that's really going to be personal to each buyer. A lot of buyers that I work with, view is very important to them, ocean view, and are they going to see the sunset? Are they not going to see the sunset? Another feature that Maui buyers tend to look for is photovoltaic or solar, because that can really reduce your electric bill. We have a lot of great sun here, so solar panels are popular. Extra storage for surfboards, paddleboards, kayaks. That's something that buyers often look for in a home or a condo. And then outdoor living space is a really big deal for people too out here. And then also outdoor showers, so you can rinse off when you come back from the beach and you don't have to bring all that sand inside. So those are a few things people look for, but I mean, honestly, it's going to be personal for each buyer and each situation and kind of depending on where you're looking.
That's just a great litany. Thank you for that. That's a great litany of sort of things that I would have never thought about. I've lived here, most of my life, and I was like, yeah, you're right. We do have an outdoor shower. That's right. Yeah, we do have a place to store our. Yeah, I never thought about all that. That's a great litany. Hey, is there anybody, Scott or Dylan, is there anything you want to add to that Heidi hasn't already mentioned or that we haven't spoken about already? Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah. Well, Dylan mentioned it before, and it's the difference between a home. There's three things to me for difference between home and a condo. You got to consider constant maintenance or maintenance that you take care of, like the roof and the yard and things like that with a home. And with a condo, it's, hey, you're paying the maintenance fee. You're paying someone else to make those decisions for you. Those decisions are out of your control, and it's on autopilot. You don't have to worry about it. Then there's the privacy independence of a single family home where you can kind of do what you want within your yard space versus community living. Association and condo docs are 200-300 pages long of lawyer language. Those are the guidelines and the rules of how that association works and how you have to live within that association. So there are restrictions to that community living versus with the single family home. You typically have more flexibility. And then it's lock up and leave for a condo. Or you go away and it's a second home and you're having to work, think about, okay, is my yard guy going? Is my pool guy going to take care of the pool? Do I have a roof leak while I'm away and I don't know about it? Those are some of the things to consider. From a structural standpoint for condos, associations take care of all that. You're basically taking care of the cosmetic stuff within a condo.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate that. Great responses. So let's move on real quick. I want to give take a sort of a station identification break over here. This is part of the livinginhawaii.com network. Really want to again extend my thanks and welcome to everyone who's here. If you're not already on the newsletter, you want to definitely make sure you go to the website livinginhawaii.com. You'll have a pop-up for the newsletter. Sign up for that. That's the one that sends out the notifications, that gives you access to ask questions and put them on the YouTube channel. It gives you notifications of when we got shows coming up, and we kind of break these all apart. So I kind of wanted to bring you all back here. There was a quick question that came in, and I think it's a good one, Heidi. This is for you here. So this is Joanne, and Joanne just popped in. Have any mainlanders been buying on the Hana side, or is it mostly local buyers out there? Hana is arguably the most beautiful spot on earth. My first my very first visit to Maui, when I was 20 years old, I drove around. I had a convertible Volkswagen Rabbit, and I drove to the Hana side. It was the most, as a kid from Chicago, a kid from the city of Chicago driving through Hana, I was just completely blown away by it. Maximally, I mean, longer story about that, but let's just stop right there. So, what's up, Heidi? What's up with people buying in Hana?
Sure. Well, first of all, I love Hana. I live on the west side of Maui, so when I go on vacation, a great weekend getaway is just to drive out to Hana and either camp or stay in a hotel or a vacation rental out there. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful, and it really feels like you're getting away. I don't really sell that much real estate in Hana. It's a really remote community, so I don't know if I can answer that question. I mean, I do know that there are mainland buyers that are owners out there. It's also, a very local community, really small community. So yeah, if you have a buyer for Hana, I would probably connect you with somebody in my office who lives out there and sells a lot, because I don't really do too much in that market.
Yeah, thanks, Heidi. I so appreciate that. This is a great way to, I mean, I love the honesty. It's like, hey, I don't know, don't do that area, but I can help, and that's a great thing about kind of what we're doing over here. It's all about being as straightforward and clean as we can be to tell people the reality of what's going on and what we know. So thank you for that. Yeah, Hana is amazing. I know famously, does Oprah Winfrey still have a piece of big plot of land? That's like the famous celebrity. There's even an airstrip, if I'm not mistaken, right? There's a private airstrip, so it's like lifestyles of the rich and famous. Go over to Hana. All right, let's move on here to our next question. This is volcanoes on the Big Island. So Linda says, she says, when can I move there? I'm a registered nurse living in Orange County. By the way, I have a typo here. It's not Linda, it's Leah. So I apologize, Leah, for making that mistake, but it says Leah. I'm a registered nurse living in Orange County, California. I would love to move to Hawaii one day. I love Kailua, Oahu. I think you live there. Actually, I don't live there, but I drive by there a lot. So me and the Porsche are doing a lot of drives in Kailua because it is such a beautiful spot. My family, husband and 5-year-old daughter, we go there every year, except this year due to COVID-19. While we love Kailua on Oahu, we can't afford to live there. So we're thinking of purchasing a place, perhaps a condo in Kailua Kona on the Big Island. Our concern is the active volcanoes on the Big Island. Please let us know what you think of Kailua Kona. Should we consider it? Thank you so much for your response. Take care, Leah. So Dylan, so you've got Leah here who loves Kailua on the Big Island, and maybe she picked Kailua Kona because the names are the same. I'm not really too sure why she picked that one. But what would you tell someone, because you're familiar with Oahu, obviously, Dylan? What would you tell someone who loves Kailua and is thinking, "Hey, Kailua Kona, what's up that? And what is it about the lava flows?" Fill us in, Dylan.
Well, first off, I did live in Oahu for a couple of years, and I lived in Kailua, and it was what I learned about it was Kailua Oahu is very similar to Kailua Kona, just in terms of the vibe and the people that are there, and the demographics and stuff. It's very similar. The beaches in Kailua Oahu are much nicer. We have nice beaches in Kailua Kona, but you have those big, long, white, sandy beaches, which are beautiful. So very similar. If you want that type of vibe, definitely, I think you would fit right in Kailua Kona also. So on the volcano topic,
Dylan, if I can just quickly interrupt, I just wanted to highlight that point that you made, which is really, really cool. So for Leah, it's like Dylan's like the best guy on the planet. He lived in Kailua for a bunch of years, and now is living in Kona. You just can't get more. I got to brag about you, Dylan. You just can't get more qualified than that. Yeah, it's awesome. Anyway, okay, I didn't want to interrupt. I've got a slide for you, and you want to talk about the lava flows,
sure.
Right?
Yeah. So
go ahead.
In general, the lava is not an issue on the Big Island. That's something that people are definitely concerned about. But the reality is, we do have active volcanoes, but the scientists create lava zones on the Big Island, and this affects insurance, and they use these ratings in order to figure out how likely you are to get active lava flow in your area. And so if you look at this map, those two little skinny red strips on the kind of southwest side of the island are the areas that are lava zone 1. So those are the ones that have the highest likelihood of getting a lava flow. And actually on that right tip of the island is where the lava flow was in 2018. So their prediction was pretty good. It was right in Leilani Estates, which is right in the smack dab middle of lava zone 1. And that's where the lava came up. Since 2018, there's been no volcanic activity at all. And previous to 2018, there was constant volcanic activity since 1983. So it's almost the first time in my life that we haven't had active flows on the island. And one of the benefits of that is we don't have any VOG right now. There's no volcanic haze because of that. But the reality is 95% of the island is completely safe from the lava, very far away. If you look, that orange patch that has the 4 on it is lava zone 4. That's where Kailua Kona is. So you're pretty much on the opposite side of where the active volcano is. So you're very safe on the west side. And as you basically the north side of the island has the older volcanoes, and so like where it says 9 at the tip top of the island is the lowest lava zone rating, and you basically have no chance of getting lava up there. So in general, don't worry about it. It's here, but it doesn't threaten most of us. And nowadays, you obviously wouldn't buy property anywhere near lava zone 1, or you shouldn't anyway. You still can, but you shouldn't.
Don't buy lava zone 1. Yeah.
I just had an inquiry 2 days ago from somebody saying, "Hey, can you tell me a little bit more about this property? It looks like a great value." And I looked it up, and sure enough, it was in Leilani Estates, right where the lava was. So of course, you get a huge, beautiful house for like $200,000 there because you can't get insurance, and you basically had lava flows right through your neighborhood 2 years ago.
Yeah, so if I suppose if you like hot lava flows going through the back of your house and potentially burning your house up, that would be a risk you might be wanting to take.
You know, a really cool thing, just a sightseeing thing, is now that it's all stopped, it's totally safe, and you can go back into Leilani Estates, and you can literally drive down the streets, and there will be 40-foot high walls of lava that were flowing through that neighborhood, and then there's people living right next to it. I mean, the houses that didn't get taken, people moved back in. They bulldoze roads back in, and people are still living there. So it's really kind of trippy and surreal to drive through there and see that there is active lava flows and people still live there. And some places the ground is still steaming, because there's activity down below, and it's really wet there. So when the water goes down into the cracks, it steams back up.
When it rains, all the steam comes out. Right. That is one thing that was really cool about the Big Island. We lived there actually in 91. Actually, lived on that side, and what I really kind of tripped out on is I thought it was like this amazing. You could literally, drive back through time, so to speak. You could drive back to the primordial Earth at the very, very, very beginning of time, right? You get some kind of with the fresh lava, completely, fresh black, nothing but black, just pure black rock, and then you could kind of drive to a little bit further, and you'd see the moss or the fungus. I forgot what it's called, but there's that white. What's that white fungus called, Dylan? I forgot what it's called. Anyway, but there's like a white kind of a fungus that was like the next stage where there was this white stuff, and then you'd see you go further out, then you'd see like ferns. The ferns would kind of grow on the white fungus and kind of work their roots into the rock, and then you drive further out, and there'd be trees, and you could actually kind of drive through time. It was just the coolest thing. I really kind of thought it was trippy. Hey, Dylan, that I gotta say that what really stuck out to me on this lava flow map is the Kailua Kona side being lava zone 4, which is cool. Where is Hilo over here? Isn't like zone 1 almost going through? Where's Hilo on this map actually?
So Hilo's on the that little bump and bay that you can see right it's north of where the lava zone 1 area is. So it's actually
I see it now. Hilo, it's just where it says by that line by Mauna Kea, where that Mauna Kea line goes all the way to the right. Okay.
Yeah. All right, so it's lava zone 3 primarily, and then right north of Hilo, it's lava zone 8. So it really can change dramatically based on the topography of the island, because if you have a ridge, one side of it can be lava zone 2, but the other side of the ridge can be 8 because of where the volcano is located.
Can't lava does not climb mountains
Yeah.
for the most part. Yeah, and actually, if I look at this map now, I realize that we lived in just outside of Pahoa town, which right now is a combination of lava zone
One and
one
two.
or two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, pretty much. That's why we got our land so cheap. We were young and stupid. This is back in my late 20s, and my wife and I bought our first property. Thought it was a deal. It was a great experience that's for sure. Okay. Let's
quick question, Peter, for
sure,
Dylan.
sure. Yeah. Great.
Dylan, is it still lava zone 1 and 2 that you cannot get insurance in? Or because I remember when I was there, lava zone 1 was out. Lava zone 2, you had to go to Lloyd's of London to be able to get the insurance. And then lava zone 3 and up, you were good. It was kind of just standard practice.
No, it's pretty easy to get insurance in lava zone 2. The premium might be a little bit higher, like $100, $200 a year. It's not very much more. It's pretty much impossible to get insurance in lava zone 1 right now, obviously, after the flows. This is maybe a topic for a future show, but there's a long political history on why we even have development in lava zone 1, and the state did some funky things where they kind of forced companies to give people insurance. So it encouraged building in lava zone 1. It encouraged bad behavior that wasn't subject to common sense, and that's why we have neighborhoods in those areas where we really shouldn't.
Bad behavior not subject to common sense. That's like a
encouraged by the state government.
Encouraged by the state. Geez, those three topics always kind of seem to kind of fit together, don't they?
Yeah.
I wonder what is with that. It's not just unique to Hawaii, unfortunately. All right, let's move on. We got about 9 minutes to go, so we still got some time. All right, let's get on to our next question over here. So here's one that I think this is almost a general one, but we're going to have Scott lead it on, which is from Steph. He says, "Hey, aloha, Peter. What are the best neighborhoods on Oahu to raise a family with children?" That's like the topic, folks. And the follow-on is from Miguel, who's from Perth Amboy, New Jersey, and says, "What island is the best to live for disabled people, especially in a wheelchair?" Scott, why don't you lead us on this discussion?
Yeah, so with the family with children portion, the schools oftentimes become a factor. And I'm kind of the belief that, the more space that, kind of a more neighborhood feel you might have for family environments, probably a little more conducive. Hawaii Kai has some of the better public schools, and it's a little kind of more micro community just south of Diamond Head, south of Honolulu. That's an excellent option, which you have this community that's already thriving there, but yet you have easy access into Honolulu. Kailua would be another one, beach community, growing up, riding your bike with the kids down to the beach or into town to a lot of the boutique shops and restaurants, and a little more pedestrian friendly, I think would be excellent. As far as disabled and wheelchair, I think it depends more on the healthcare that's needed. A lot of the homes are going to be able to either be modified or handle someone that's disabled or needs wheelchair access. The question is do you need medical services? And if that's the case, especially specialists, then we've talked about this before, Oahu has more of your specialists for the healthcare needs.
Let's take that. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. Let's kind of expand this. I mean, it's a general question, so let's kind of let's take it and expand it to each of the islands. So, Heidi, if someone said to you, if I'm looking at moving to Maui, because we've had this question earlier, looking to move into Maui with a family, what are some of the areas that you would recommend are good family friendly neighborhoods on Maui?
Yeah, well, there's lots of great places to raise a family on Maui. I mean, I think one of the most important things, as Scott mentioned, is schools and which school that you want to go to. Something about Maui that I learned when I first moved here is even if a place is only maybe 20 miles away, that can mean more than an hour drive in some cases. So I think being close to schools would be a big priority. And then there's certainly neighborhoods, like if you want to have a neighborhood with sidewalks and things, there's a great planned community in central Maui, Lani and Keolani, and they have it's a very family-friendly subdivision. Upcountry is also a really popular area for families with kids. And on West Maui, I mean, we have great neighborhoods as well. So, I mean, but that definitely does play into the search at the beginning, is where somebody's going to go to school and how close do you want to be
Yeah,
to
great
the
consideration.
school.
So Dylan, real quick, if you can quickly kind of share with us, what are the good places for neighborhoods with family and perhaps a consideration for disabled needs?
I would say for families, the vast majority of the Big Island is very good to raise a family at. I would more narrow it down on where you shouldn't go. And there are a few communities that have more retired people, or complexes that have people who aren't as going to be as friendly to kids that are screaming and running around and doing what kids do. So that's something I could definitely help with. Is I wouldn't say you should look in these three areas. You should more avoid these three areas, would be more the answer that I would give.
That's
in that
great.
sense.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then on the disabled wheelchair thing, I think in general, I feel like the Big Island, because it's very spread out and rural, it's not a super good, walking pedestrian kind of community. That's not to say it's bad, but it's just not how we're built. We're not, there isn't dense urban centers where you have a lot of places you can walk to or get around in. We have all the ADA laws like you have anywhere else. So you definitely have access to parking and things like that. But I think the most important thing is what Scott was saying, healthcare, and making sure that you have access to the healthcare that you need.
Yeah, and the Big Island's like that rugged sort of out country, yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
that's kind of just like on the mainland. If you were to gonna go like quote in the middle of nowhere, it's that you might have the gas station will be ADA friendly, but the rest of the entire country, that the whole region is rugged. All right, you know what? We got about 4 minutes, and we ran a little bit long, but I did want to cover. I want to skip to talking about our diamonds and deals segment. So I'm going to ask you folks to kind of go through it quickly so we can fit within our time limit. Here's where we talk about our sort of aspirational properties that we think are really cool. Scott, what is this? What the heck is this? This is amazing.
That's definitely a diamond, and because I'm down here on the Gold Coast, this building's probably about 5 buildings down from where I am right now. That's a penthouse unit. The Castle Surf, all the units on the front of that building have this arched, covered, which you can see in the right picture there, lanai, where you can close them up, but it looks down the coastline towards Waikiki. You're on this Gold Coast here, right on the ocean. It's 1,400 plus square feet, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 2 parking for $3.2 million. But that thing has been redone from top to bottom with mango koa cabinets. You got a hand
look at that
chisel.
bedroom. I'm seeing that bedroom there. That's crazy.
Yeah, and you normally don't get windows on 3 sides in condo buildings, and this is one that has. So you're going to have Diamond Head and Kapiolani Park on the backside there, which is a 300-acre park, and on the front you're staring right at the ocean. And out the side windows, you're overlooking the Elks Lodge, which is at 2 stories. You're up on the 6th, so you're seeing down that coastline as well, even from that master bedroom, which is on the backside of that unit.
So this is about as Gold Coast gets over here. That is amazing. All right, let's move on here. Heidi, fill us in. We got it looks like a deal here. Fill us in.
Yeah, this is definitely a deal. I showed this property last week. It's probably the nicest property on Maui for under $250,000. It's a leasehold property. 2-bedroom, 1-bath. It's right across from Honokwai Beach Park. So it's a great location, and the monthly costs of ownership are pretty low, which makes it attractive for full-time living. Between the lease rent and the HOA, it's only about $621 a month, and there are 30 years left on the land lease. So yeah,
That's a nice long lease. Yeah. So there's a whole topic, and we've talked about leasehold. I've got some stuff on the channel, so there are some conditions on it. But boy, that is a deal, and it looks pretty good. All right, let's bring this down to our last one here. Dylan, what do you got here, buddy? We got you. You got your muted. Rewind, and there we go. Go for it.
Yeah, I picked out the deal for the week here. Nothing beautiful or special, but definitely a really cool opportunity. This is 4.39 acres, right in Captain Cook. So really good location, easy access. It's totally overgrown and dilapidated, but to get that much land for under 100,000 per acre, you would have to rebuild the home. But this could definitely, be worth 800,000 with a decent home on it. So you could put a minimum amount of money back into it and definitely have some appreciation. But if you're into farming, it's right in the heart of coffee country, great soil, anything grows. Right now, you can see how healthy the weeds are, but that could easily be coffee or avocados or something else. But really, really cool piece of property that just came on the market.
Man, that's so cool. I really want to thank the three of you for bringing this great diversity. Scott, you showed us this like killer, like, oh my God, like unbelievable. What is this castle? Look at that view off the thing, which is like awesome, 3.2 million. And then Heidi, you've got that, very affordable 247,000 lease, so a 30-year lease on top of it. And you said 600 in total lease rent and maintenance is 600 a month, which is, not bad. And Dylan, you've got like, wow, 4.5 acres of coffee country that needs to be kind of rebuilt from scratch, but that's pretty amazing. Well, hey, look, folks, we have come to the end of another really amazing show. I want to thank everybody for attending. Heidi, it was great to have you here. You're a great addition to our team. I'm so happy that you're a part of this. And Dylan and Scott, thanks for the pros. We're the old timers now, the old timer pros who've been bringing up all this great experience. Scott, I think your experience with building condos or developing condos, and Dylan, your experience in the brand has just been fantastic. So I want to thank you all for attending. You're going to be here in a couple of weeks again. So make sure you get on the newsletter. And see, Jim agrees. Jim agrees, and so does Teresa. Jim says so great. Yeah, see you in a couple of weeks. Well, Jim, see you in a couple of weeks. Absolutely, see you in a couple of weeks. And Teresa enjoys it. So those are our big fans who are here from the beginning, and they made it. They made it out. They made it until the end. And so did thanks, Gina. We really appreciate you all being here. Hey, folks, stay safe. Keep us in your prayers. We hope that Douglas, we hope that Hawaii does its thing with Douglas again as it's done before. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Get on the newsletter, and we'll talk to you all later. See you all later, folks.
Aloha.
Have a good one. Aloha.